Hi, this is R.N. Bhaskar from BKBB, which is an acronym for Bhaskar Ki Business Baatein. And this is the channel where we talk about news behind the news. This is a channel that has another form, which is the Bhaskar Ki Business Baatein, where we bring you every week a policy analysis or a story or a conversation. But this one is a daily show on weekdays, Monday to Friday, where we talk about news behind the news. And we pick up 2 or 3 headlines that we think that you should look at very carefully because of what the implications can be. And as always, I have my anchors, my co-anchors with me. I have Katya and I have Isha. And the 3 headlines that we have chosen for today are, the first one would be how exactly economic growth has slowed down, which could have resulted in a slippage in terms of oil imports worldwide. The second one is, where should the money be going? From the charts, it looks like Agritech looks promising, but is it? And the third one is, how alluring are H-1B visas and how long will the allure last? And these 3 stories are what we're going to talk about. Let's go to Katya for the first story.
Thank you, sir. As you can see from the chart, oil imports have fell 11% in December. Now, why were we getting you December data? It's because this data is given with a 3-month lag outside. So, as we can see, it has fallen by 10.6% year on year. But if you look at it sequentially, from November 2024 to December 2024, it has fallen slipped much lower, 16.5%. And mostly this is because of lower supply from countries like Russia, Saudi and Kuwait. And surprisingly, at the same time, if you see, a lot of supply from UAE and Nigeria has gone up. So now why has this happened? Because our internal consumption wouldn't have changed much, right? This probably can be attributed to export oriented units that we have. We bring in crude, we process it, and we send back oil back. So this might be affected, and a global economic slowdown might have something to do with that. But apart from that, also, if you can notice the fact that Russian oil, which was one of our main source, which became a very important source during the war, because we were one of the few people who were taking in Russian crude, has gone down. This might have a little bit of geopolitical implications. Saudi is a little bit tricky. So I just want to go back to Bhaskar sir and say, sir, why Russia and Saudi in particular? Russia we can understand because of the changing dynamics of the war, probably, and we were not getting cheap crude from them anymore. But why Saudi?
Well, the oil dynamics have a lot to do with Trump. Trumponomics has resulted in Trump recession. Trump recession is what the CNBC calls a recession caused by Trump. And Trump had 2 objectives. One was to boost American oil, gas and production, or oil, gas supplies and oil and gas supplies. Trump thought that he could make oil and gas the gold rush that McKinley saw. But the trouble is, oil is surplus in the market and gas needs long-term contracts, and that is why Trump is squeezing India's arm. And because India is going to import less from either Saudi or from Russia, it means they will also be impacted. At the same time, the wars have resulted in a situation where nobody wants to hedge bets and nobody wants to create surplus capacities, because wars can destroy ships, can set oil tankers ablaze. So there's a lot of caution. There's a lot of skittishness. There's a lot of supply. And as the war eases in Ukraine or the Middle East, oil supplies will resume again. The question is, will USA continue to bully other countries to purchasing its oil? That is the big question mark which the whole world is watching. So anything can happen with oil supplies and oil demand. But with a global recession, even America will not be able to sell easily. Anyway, that was the first story. And thanks, Katya, for that. And just before we go to the second story, a reminder, please click the subscribe button. Please click the like button, because we have more stories coming. And let's go to the second story, which I will take up. Where should money go? If you look at the charts, there is a crisis in stock markets worldwide. This is the US stock market, and you can see how it's going to the red, which is why CNBC calls it Trump session. He says it's the first recession in history which is named after a president. And then, if you look at yesterday, there was some talk about a rebound, but the general trend is downwards. We expect the markets to get worse. And every time Trump goes on his Trump chat, on his Truth channel, the markets go down even further. And ironically, our Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, has joined the Trump Truth channel just today. Okay, look at that second chart. The second chart is where you see that the government spending on fintech may have gone up, but the trend for the industry is going down. If you look at the R&D, you find that's going down. If you look at fintech, that is also a very, very mixed flavor, and it seems to be losing fancy with private equity investors. The one sector that is raising money hand over fist is the agritech sector. The agritech sector has a lot of potential and could be a gold mine provided, and that's the elephant in the room, provided government policies are okay, otherwise it will be in trouble. But anyway, that was my story, and let's go on to the third story, and that's Isha's story on H-1B visas.
Hello, good morning. Thank you for joining me today. The story I'm going to be bringing you is from The Hindu. It's an editorial titled A Profile of H-1B Workers. So, according to data collected by the Pew Research Center, the landscape of H-1B workers, H-1B visa, which is the foreign worker visa for specialty occupations, has undergone a dramatic transformation. So as you can see in the first chart that's on your screen right now, in the 2000s, 57% of H-1B workers had a bachelor's degree, while only 31% had a master's degree. By 2021, however, we can see that these numbers have flipped entirely, with only 34% having a bachelor's degree and 57% having a master's degree. So this is representative of the reducing value of a 4-year degree in helping secure a visa and the need for a master's degree in order to even be considered for an H-1B. So now we move on to chart 2, which is now on your screen. So that shows us the changing trends in terms of the number of new and renewed H-1B applications approved every fiscal year. So as seen in the charts, in the 2000s, only about 10% of approved H-1B applications were renewals, while most were new, which means that US was taking in a huge influx of skilled immigrant worker populations. But now the renewals have grown to almost 3 times the amount of new applications approved. So barely any new applications are being approved, but at the same time, we also see a huge number of students going abroad to study in the hopes of being able to relocate eventually with a worker's visa. The third graph, which is on the right side of your screen, analyzes the percentage share of H-1B applications denied every fiscal year. So while the denial rate for H-1B visas dropped to a record low of around 2% under the former President Joe Biden, from a peak of 15% during Trump's first term, again, with Trump coming back, this data becomes especially significant because it urges us to think about what the stringent crackdown on immigration would mean for the youth of India who have rising US aspirations. And I think this is something, H-1 visa has been an issue that we have talked about extensively on this channel, and it's something that we will be watching out for. I'd love to hear your comments on this, sir. Thank you. That's all from my side.
Thank you, Isha. Interesting story. And yes, H-1B visa continues to lure people, but I do not know how long this lure will last for 2 reasons. One, America is not the most pleasant places to be in right now. If you look at the number of students who are walking out of America because of the crackdown on protests. I mean, a land which was supposed to be free will not allow any protest against Israel. Okay, that's one part. The second is there's talk in the market about Trump putting up the H-1B visa also on sale, the way he has put the golden visa of $500 million up for sale. The trouble with putting up visas for sale is to get the rich, but not necessarily the talented. And the immigration curbs that Trump has introduced are going to reduce the flow of talent to the US. And you'll have a labor inflation on one hand and loss of productivity and hence cost inflation on the other. One way or the other, the US seems to be headed for higher costs unless it reverses its immigration policies and stops rejecting visa applications. Let us see. Trump has his own ideas. Maybe he's right, but the market's guessing that he's wrong. Okay. And as we talk, I can see questions popping up. And one of the first questions is interesting. With oil imports declining, will the USA be affected? Yes, it will. It will be. It will be affected for two reasons. First, the US wanted to sell more of its oil and gas. If there's a surplus in the market, or demand slows down, the US will find selling that difficult. The second problem is already the cost of exploring gas is over $41 per barrel. Trump wants to crash the price of oil, but that won't be possible because incremental oil fields and gas fields are over $41 per barrel. So yes, the cost will go up, and yes, the demand will go down unless the global economy revives. You can't revive a global economy with tariffs in place, with import blockages in place, with saying we will not import Chinese goods, otherwise we'll slap additional tariffs on them. You have slowed down global trade, and that is hurting. So oil markets are dependent on economic revival, and I think the US is going to be one of the biggest casualties in this war. Okay, that goes on to the second question. Doesn't India's agriculture need mechanization? Can startups help? Well, yes, but that's what Agritech is all about. It wants to bring in technology instead of plain mechanization. But as I said, agriculture in India is a government-controlled subject. And if Agritech comes in, government policies must go hand in hand. But the last 5 years have shown, or the last 10 years have shown, the government's policies towards agriculture have been most unfriendly. The government seems to promote imports more than encourage domestic production. And at times it blocks exports, making buyers suffer and making farmers suffer too. So let's see how agriculture pans out. The promise is great, but will the government have the right policies? And that is why the next question also falls in the same category. Is Agritech the right investment destination? It seems to be the right investment destination, provided the government brings in the right policy. And that, in a way, has the last question which we'll take up for today. Do you see a change in H-1B policies? I don't know. Trump is unpredictable. He may decide to put up H-1B policies for sale, or he may increase the rejection rate of H-1B visas. Either way, we are living in a world of uncertainty, and the uncertainty is going to grow even further. And yes, please keep your questions coming in. Please click the right like button, and please subscribe to our channel. And do remember, we're waiting for you every morning at 8:15 a.m. See you tomorrow, and thanks for being with us today. Good luck to you. Have a great day.